How to face the Qiblah. Very few people who face northeast know the true rules for facing the Qiblah, as well as many who face southeast. Before proceeding, let us give brief, proper instruction on how to face the Qiblah. Memorize this quote of Imam an-Nawawi. He said, and notice, by the way, who are the scholars we've referenced so far? Abu Hanifa, Imam al-Haramain, al-Juwayni, an-Nawawi, for example, and maybe some others like al-Husni. Al-Husni might not be as famous, but his book is famous and printed. But even if you don't want al-Husni, an-Nawawi, Imam al-Haramain, al-Juwayni, Abu Hanifa. So what's my point? My point that really we are bringing what's from Ahlul Sunnah. This is the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnah. This is not, Imam, Dr. Farouk Phillips has a PhD from Harvard. Because a lot of times when you talk to people about Northeast Qiblah, they say, oh, all the scholars of the day, and then they start giving you all these names of people really we don't know who they are, actually. Imam an-Nawawi said, وَمَنْ أَمْكَنَهُ عِلْمُ الْقِبْلَةِ حَرُمَ عَلَيْهِ تَقْلِيدٌ التقليد والاجتهاد وإلا أخذ بقول ثقة يخبر عن علم فإن فقد وأمكن الاجتهاد حرم التقليد. Memorize this quote of Imam an-Nawawi. It's just one sentence. He said, whoever is able to have knowledge of the Qiblah is forbidden from imitating another and making a determination. Knowledge here means he can see it. That's what he means by knowledge. Because in the terminology of the scholars, when they say knowledge, they mean knowing something with certainty that is 100% true without a single room for error. That's what knowledge means in their terminology. So when he says, whoever is able to have knowledge of the Qiblah, that means he sees it. So now he has definitive perception. It's not a speculation. It's not a guess. Whoever is able to have knowledge of the Qiblah is forbidden from imitating another and making a determination. If unable to have knowledge, he can't see it, he takes the word of a trustworthy person who informs him based on knowledge. If that is missing and one were able to make a determination, it is forbidden for him to imitate another. If that is missing and one were able to make a determination, it is forbidden for him to imitate another. We're going to explain. This quote spells out one's first steps in facing his prayer direction. 1. If you have knowledge of the Kaaba's location, which is by seeing it, then you may not use any other means to face it. Not the word of another, nor a determination by the likes of the stars or shadows. What that means is if you can see the Kaaba, then you don't use any other means to face it. If you see the Kaaba, you don't say, I see the Kaaba, but wait, let me check the North Star real quick, just to be extra sure. So if you have knowledge of the Kaaba's location, which is by seeing it, then you cannot use any other means to face it. You don't take anyone's word. You don't imitate anyone in his direction. And you don't make any determination by using the stars or the shadows or anything else. If you cannot achieve knowledge of the Kaaba because you cannot see it, like us. I don't know if any of you are now by the Kaaba and you can see it and you're listening to my lesson. And if so, make dua for me, please. But if you cannot achieve knowledge of the Kaaba because you cannot see it, then before making a determination by making ijtihad by the sun and stars, etc., you take the word of a trustworthy person who informs you by his knowledge, his seeing the Kaaba. Not one who is informing you of his own determination. Meaning, Now you can't see the Kaaba. So step one is inaccessible, inapplicable. Step two is to take the word of a reliable person who's informing you of his knowledge. That means a trustworthy person sees the Kaaba. You don't see the Kaaba, but you have a trustworthy person who sees it and he tells you it's like this. Then if this is available for you, you do not make a determination. You don't use the North Star or anything like that. Why? Because number one, he has knowledge because he sees it. Number two, he's trustworthy. So the information from a trustworthy person who tells you of his knowledge is stronger than your own determination. If you don't see the Kaaba, so you can use the North Star, you can use the sun and things like that to find your direction. So you make any determination, an ijtihad. But you don't see the Kaaba, but you do have a trustworthy person who sees it. Then this trustworthy person who sees it telling you of what he sees is stronger than your own determination. That's why that's step two. So if that's missing, okay, one moment, Muhammad. If that's missing, so step one is missing. You don't see the Kaaba. Step two is missing. You don't have a trustworthy person who sees the Kaaba. And we're not talking about a person who made his own determination and he tells you his determination. Like if you come to my house and then I say the Qibla is like this, that's not the same. Because how do I know the Qibla is like that if I'm in Philadelphia, I don't see the Kaaba? Then it means the only thing I can really be informing you of is my own determination, which is not knowledge. There's a difference between knowledge and an ijtihad. Ijtihad will lead you to something that's possibly wrong. In reality, that's what ijtihad. Ijtihad is for when you don't have a definitive reference. You don't have a definitive reference, you make ijtihad. You don't see the Kaaba, you don't have a trustworthy person who sees it, so you make ijtihad. You make your best determination. Same thing, what does Shafi'i do and Abu Hanifa do? They make ijtihad. There's not an explicit ayah from the Quran. There's not an explicit authentic hadith of the Prophet that they don't disagree about its authenticity. Then they make ijtihad. Now, if you can't do that, then you can imitate a person. One moment, Muhammad. Don't post your question just yet. Let me just finish this thought so I can make sure it's all connected. So step one is to face the Kaaba based on your knowledge. Step two is to take the word of a trustworthy person informing you of his knowledge, meaning he sees it and he tells you. Step three, if you do not have knowledge of the Kaaba by seeing it, nor are you informed by a trustworthy person who sees it, then you can make your best determination, ijtihad, and then face what is your overwhelming speculation, ghalabatul dhann, of its direction. From the USA and Canada, it is certainly southeast, but the degree of south varies from place to place. A person following this step cannot imitate another. You cannot rely on another person's Qibla direction. That's why, if you have knowledge, you don't go into a musalla or a masjid and just pray like people pray. Because if they can't see the Kaaba, it means they made a determination. And if they made a determination, then it means you need to make your own determination. When do you imitate someone in his Qibla? Pure imitation, with no thought, no checking. You just do a pure imitation in your Qibla direction when you don't see the Kaaba, you don't have a trustworthy person who sees the Kaaba, and you cannot make a determination. Then, if you can't make a determination, then you can imitate someone, which we'll talk about. Just be patient. I'll give you a chance for questions, inshallah. So a person following this step cannot imitate another. You cannot rely on another person's Qibla determination. 4, if you are unable to make a determination because of being blind or a child who does not yet possess the skill to make a proper determination, then you may imitate another. This is why An-Nawawi also said, وَمَنْ عَجَزَ عَنِ الْاجْتِهَادِ وَتَعَلُّمِ الْأَدِلَّةِ كَالْأَعْمَى قَلَّدَ ثِقَةً عَارِفًا. Whoever is unable to make a determination and unable to learn the Qibla references, like the blind, he imitates a trustworthy, knowledgeable person. The synopsis, the summary, is that if you can see the Kaaba, you cannot use other means to face it. If you can see the Kaaba, you cannot use other means to face it. If you cannot see it, but a trustworthy person who sees it informs you, then you cannot use any other means. No determination and no imitation. If you do not have the word of a trustworthy person reporting his sighting, then you have to make your own determination. You do not follow another person's determination because, like you, he does not see the Kaaba and he lacks the word of a trustworthy person reporting his sighting the Kaaba to him. You both have the same obligation. He makes his ijtihad, you make your ijtihad. If you cannot make a determination like a child or a blind man, only then can you imitate someone else's determination, with the condition that the one you're imitating is trustworthy and knowledgeable. That's what An-Nawawi said there. He said, قَلَّدَ ثِقَةً عَارِفًا. He imitates a trustworthy, knowledgeable person, not an ignorant person. The occurrence of this Northeast tragedy makes the wisdom of this rule clear. It is not valid for the one who can determine the Qibla to just follow without checking the Qibla references and making his own determination. Yes, go ahead, Muhammad. Question. So how can a person see the Qibla if you don't see it? Maybe there's a window and he sees it, and you're not by the window and you don't see it. You said, do you remember when you told us some got confused about a judgment concerning the Qibla, but if a person believes the Qibla is a certain direction and then they turn to a different direction? If someone believes that the Qibla is in one direction, but he turns to a different direction than what he believes the Qibla to be, his prayer is invalid.